Roses are red, violets are blue, close air support is dead. But are you sure about that? Eee. Oh man, I feel like every video I upload is about close air support, but at this point, there's 3 things I enjoy about this game. 2 of them are dead, and I want to make the best of CAS. Now, today was supposed to be about the Seahawk. I was going to make sort of a precursor video for the montage, showing you what the vehicle is capable of, what it can do. But then because obviously, look, when you're making a kill montage, and it's based off just one vehicle, and in this case, luckily it's in 2 different lineups, so I can use the German and the British one. It's not that repetitive, but still, after like 50, 60 matches or so, that, I had to go through to collect the footage, and then importing and cutting all the footage in Adobe Premiere Pro, and then editing it, it's about as repetitive as it gets. And I got bored of it a little bit. I needed a break, and I wanted to play a bit of War Thunder. And I thought, what can I do that will bring back the feel of the old days, but at the same time give me a challenge and a learning curve? And today is all about that learning curve. Now, what I'm playing here is the CL13. Obviously not yet. I'm playing the Leopard, and this is not any Leopard. This is provided by Guys It's a Premium. Now, this Leopard actually differs from the A1A1 that I would normally play, or I used to play in this lineup, with its gun, and the fact that it's not aced. Now, acing is something I don't think, actually talked about, maybe on a stream, but you have a crew, and then when that crew is, you could expert it and get some bonus points, and you can also have it aced, which if you want to, unlock, it takes a lot of playtime. And if you want to buy it, it takes a lot of golden eagles. So I'm actually kind of proud, because there are a couple of vehicles in the game, not more than 10, that I've actually aced, and I've aced them by playing them, not by purchasing. But, I think the whole crew debate could take off another hour of our time. So, for the meantime, I forgot how fun it is to play a Leopard. Honestly. And this tank was nice to play because the gun's powerful, it has a reasonably good reload, and because the tank doesn't have a camouflage, I'm used to playing, the whole snow camo and, cocky and stuff, but with this, I felt like I was playing a stock tank that wasn't stock. I don't know, maybe it was a bit of reverse psychology. And I had a really, really fun time with a couple of matches that I played. And right there was a classic example of ATGMs. It flies straight by your tank, and then the server late registers that it did actually hit you, but because it's an ATGM and it's inconsistent, it hits your optic port or your machine gun port and there's no damage. And I'm going to ignore the IT1 for now and try to focus on... Hold on, big brain here. This could be a T64, T62, T7900. Oh, it's a T55 AM-1. Thank you very much. I've no idea what that is, man. Honestly, like a quarter of all the vehicles that I face in these top tier matches are vehicles I've never seen in my life. I don't even know where to, where to pen them. It just, at the same time though, I feel like when you're using APFS DS, you can just shoot anywhere and it will go through. So it's, I guess it's a win-win. The IT1 I feel bad for, because this thing used to be so bloody cancerous, and there was so much sort of hatred surrounding ATGMs when we first had it. And some people still, I think, to this day say ATGMs were a mistake. I actually really like the IT1, but now that ATGMs don't really do that well, it's sort of... That's a bit sad seeing it go, especially because the battle rating gets increased, but its performance is still pretty bad. And this is where I think finally die. Yeah, BMP camping around the corner. I should have seen him. There was a little bit of light green from the camouflage that sort of popped through one of the destroyed windows, but whatever. This is the meat of the video, the CL13 Mark V. God, I love this thing to bits. Now, I'm not sure if this is also getting a battle ring adjustment, because recently Gaijin decided that they're going to change some BRs. Now, I didn't read it in that detail, so I'm not sure if this plane is also being affected. I know the MiG-15 normal is being reduced to 8.7 from 9.0, which is a brilliant change, except that they forgot about the A5, and they also reduced the BIS battle rating, and for whatever reason, they thought that the Tiger 1 should go to 5.3. It's just beyond me, man. It's such a stupid thing. Hold on a second. HVAR, boom, into the Gepard. Love that. That was the first kill of the first flight with the Sabre. I loved it. I really, really like when it works straight off the start. And I guess that's sort of a feeling that takes time to regain. The feeling of having power. even though the power is running through your fingers of your keyboard and your mouse. But when we played in 1.69, shots like that would have been an instant kill. And you have to understand that it's not necessarily that players like myself are complaining about, we can no longer do what we used to do. It's that the amount of work required to get that rocket on target and have it do damage isn't worth the reward, right? Like, to spawn an SPA in and just spray across the sky, it costs nothing. But for a plane to be spawned in, it costs a lot. For that plane to also have rockets, it costs even more. And the rewards from that plane that now has a very, very difficult job to actually hit things like that, it can be, demotivating. Because we are still working with muscle memory. A good example is the MiG-15 Biss's guns. If you're used to the 37mm doing damage, then suddenly Gaijin would nerf it, you would feel powerless. Because you would be doing everything you used to do, and yet that isn't working. So this is the learning curve that I wanted to talk about. I had to make a different approach here. And I think the mistake that I was doing in this match where I was still learning was I was playing the Sabre the same way I'd play the Seahawk, which is not directly top-down approach, but you're sort of doing 45-degree angle approaches. As you can see, I loop, I engage the target at a reasonable angle, I try to get shots on target from as far as possible, and then zoom away and repeat the process. So like a figure of 8. And it's wrong. It's not actually the most efficient way to do it. And the reason for it being is because these radar-guided SPA will spot you. Now, luckily for me, that was a Shilka that must have been blind, was not paying attention, maybe had its radar locked. But because we're in a really fast plane that doesn't actually, pull out of dives very quickly, and we're playing on a very tight urban map, this is the difficult part. How do you spot vehicles? How do you identify them? Because often enough, you'll go through an attack run, and you'll have a hard time spotting anything. And yet what you should be able to do is spot all the SPA, see if they're looking at you, figure out which of the tanks that you see is the most worthwhile to engage, and which one of those tanks has its engine turned to you, or its weak spot turns to you. So the amount of thinking that I suddenly have to do in a plane is ludicrously high. When you think about it, if I play an SPA, I'll just have to sit in an open spot if I wanted to, and just wait for the radar lock to come on. It's like, oh, there's a plane to my southwest. Turn there and start spraying. Job done. And that SPA will cost me 70 spawn points, whereas a plane will cost me over 1,300. That difference is massive. So what the learning was starting to become was identifying locations on the ground where targets are most likely going to be, and then passing them at low altitude, high speed, which, as you'll see in the next clip, can be quite difficult to perform, but very satisfying. And even like this, when a radar-guided SPA is focused on your teammate, that was maybe a centimeter, 3 pixels on the screen, too highly aimed. No connection shot. And so unlike in a tank or an SPA, which costs very little, you could just bail out and spawn a backup or something else. In a plane, you can't do that. Even after all that I've done right here in this match, I still don't have enough to respawn any plane, let alone the same one. So naturally, our course of action is to go back to the airfield, rearm, and get back in the air to try to help our teammates out. Here's the problem. We have no left aileron, and this is actually low amount of damage. We could be missing an entire elevator piece, which often happens with the new damage models. Now, you're trying to land this on an airfield that's, it's perfectly sized for things like Spitfire Mark IIs. For everything else, it's a bit of a pain in the arse to land. So, obviously, we're going to crash land it, which means we actually get on the crash feed. We have to... Oh, my KD, man. No, but honestly, look, this is 50 seconds I'm sitting on the runway repairing. Full minute, actually. And then I'll take another full minute to get back into the battle. That's 2 minutes where the tickets could be bleeding, where the enemy could be spawning vehicles that I don't know are now there. And here we are, 2 minutes later, we're back up in the air, got rearmed, repaired, and judging from the kill feed, there's 2 SPA I have to watch out for, a Shilka and an AMX-30 DCA. Here's the problem. They know where I am, because they've got radar. I've got no idea where they could be. Likely enough, this map is small. This is a good thing, because in this case, I don't have to, search all across the map. But because there's a bunch of buildings and because these vehicles don't really render, I can see the shots coming in before I can even see the tank. And then when I finally can get my rocket on target, I've been killed, and luckily I also managed to trade him. But my plane cost 624 spawn points. His SPA cost him 70. That's a price difference of nearly 9 times. 9 times the difference. Yeah, the plane has a lot of rockets, but the SPA can capture points. You know, they're two completely different vehicle types, and yet one is specifically designed to counter the other. In a dogfight between a plane and an SPA, the SPA should win 9 out of 10 times because it's specialized to eliminate the plane, and yet it costs 9 times less. This is the classic case of double fixing with Gaijin. You know, it happened with the ZSU-57, where its battle rating was increased, and its ammo got nerfed, and it got hull break added. And then now we have the R2Y2, which has its air spawn removed, its battle rating increased, and its already ludicrous repair cost stays the same. It does not make any sense. And of course, anybody who plays the game will be able to look at that and be like, hold on a second, this does not make sense. Now, here's a really, really unpopular opinion, but I think Warhammer has developed way too much variety, and it's an unhealthy type of variety because they don't know what to do with it. You know, there was a time and place where I had done something that I believe still to this day, well, at the moment, it's actually unachievable. So maybe, theoretically speaking, if nobody else did this, I may have been the first and last person to have spaded every vehicle in the game. And during that period of time, I at least believed that I had enough experience from, you know, because you know every weak spot, you know every map, you know every sort of tactic, that I would be able to put together a healthy matchmaker. I mean, it probably wouldn't be perfect, but it'd be way better than what we have in place. And even then, that would only cover 1/3 of all the game because we have too many game modes. You know, Sim is its own world, and Arcade is its own world. And what Gaijin does is because, first of all, they don't have people that play the game. Not to the near extent that players like myself have, or players at the moment that are, you know, playing 10, 12 hours a day do. Even if you put those players into a council and had them provide some type of feedback, it wouldn't work because it would be very biased. Obviously, we're people. We have opinions, and they're very subjective. The reason why statistics are a great idea is because, you know, they give you a broader view, and they generally, numbers don't lie. The problem is that they're not comparing apples to apples. They're not saying, okay, let's compare this vehicle to this vehicle and give them adequate battle ratings on their performance. No, what they're doing is they're looking at performance of players in vehicle A compared to performance of players in vehicle B. You're adding an inner variable, which is the player. Unless you're saying orange in a Sabre fighting orange clone in a MiG, it's just not comparable. The MiG could be spaded, the Sabre could be stock, you know, there's just so many things that can be different. And statistics are, funnily enough, this one debate that was even going on between players. We used to have this massive discussion between kill to death ratio and kill to battle ratio. Which one mattered more? Should it be a combination of the two? Because one thing is gathering statistics or being able to look at statistics, right? Everybody knows how to open something's stat card, whether it's a player, whether it's a vehicle, and then saying, okay, this good, this bad. Anyone can do that. But what fewer people can do is actually interpret those statistics, those numbers, into factual data to make sense of it. To look at a win ratio of Tiger 1 and see that it's too low and saying, okay, let's lower the battle rating, funnily enough, it will fix the problem. Yes, because it's a lower battle rating, it's now going to perform better, it's going to have less armoured vehicles to fight against, they're going to be easier to pen, yada yada. It's going to have its win ratio increased. But as a consequence, vehicles that it fights will see their battle rating decreased. What do you do then? Do you then decrease the battle rating of those vehicles? Because eventually you're going to run out of battle ratings to decrease. And it works both ways. So we're in an endless loop here, and this has been going on forever. This is why vehicles get down tiered, and then they club, and then they get up tiered, and then they get clubbed, and then And then a really good weapon gets added to that vehicle, but the battle rating doesn't change because we just forgot about it. And then that thing clubs. And then, a year later, when they finally get around to realizing, oops, there's the problem, decrease the battle rating. And then they also remove the weapon. And then they realize, oh shit, we can't do both at the same time. It's endless. It happens all the time with so many things. It's inconsistent. And it's a clear case of, I don't think, statistics being the problem, but the interpretation of the statistics being the problem. Now, I've sidetracked way too much, but I love talking about these things because I think perhaps as a player that's no longer so involved in the game, I don't devote nearly that much time to it or thinking process, I have developed a bit more of a maybe objective view of it. A year ago, if you said, "Hey, Orange, what do you think about close air support?" I would have told you something not very nice. But nowadays, I've gotten to kind of like it again. I think the current rocket performance is fine. I do think so. I think it's way better than what it used to be. What's not okay is that the playing cost is still so damn high. Now, hear me out. If the playing cost was decreased, right, the spawn cost for putting a plane to a match, and perhaps the spawn points for an SPA were increased, and they were brought a little bit closer together, then we would probably reach a point where more players would be comfortable taking out planes without sacrificing so many spawn points that will result in them being out of vehicles to possibly spawn in later. And SPA that are being played would have more things that they can shoot at, therefore practice and get better at. All in all, I think it means more kills for both parties. SPA get to do some more and planes get to do some more. This, of course, it doesn't touch, and it cannot touch, the newly added sound launchers. I don't know how to get around the problem. I haven't played them. I don't have them unlocked. Whenever I get matches where those things are in, I usually just get killed without realizing I'm being shot at, and then I just leave the match, go into something else. I just hope for a down tier or whatever. So yeah, it's not perfect. It's not the perfect world, but I've been quite happy being able to fly the Saber and do these long-range snipes. Now, the tactic, the learning curve, let me get back to that because I have sidetracked for like 10 minutes, but I'm still using a combination of the figure of 8, you can see, so sort of long-distance attacking SPA. So here's a Shilka. That was hell of a loud thunder. Jesus Christ. Anyways, I'm not stopping the commentary. It's not happening. Some people often ask me, why do I do this? And I call it the knife edge maneuver, right? So why do I fire the rockets sideways and why not straight on? And it's a simple answer, because if I'm going straight on, rockets are fired from both wings, meaning only one rocket can really be aimed at the target. But if I knife edge it, what's happening is one rocket is being a bit above the target, one rocket is being a bit below the target, meaning I can guesswork, and maybe I'm a bit up, maybe I'm a bit down, or maybe I'm going to shoot that Shilka directly into the 4 cannons, straight in the forehead. These type of kills are so satisfying. You look at a target, you fire the rockets, you turn away, you forget the rockets are even there, and 2 seconds later, boom, the kill feed comes up. That, unfortunately, is not something that your average player can do. I mean, I welcome with a warm heart anybody who has a Saber, who has a 9.0 German, Japanese, or American lineup, to go out there and try this. I think, hold on. I think the French have a Saber too. Don't know if it has HVARs, but maybe worth giving a try. I really suggest that you take 5, 10 matches with a Saber in your lineup. Try to go for the actual Saber. So try to get enough points early game, get the Saber out, get the HVAR out, and try to get some long-distance kills, maybe try to going for some lighter tanks. Hell, try out these rockets in different scenarios against different vehicles. Crash a couple of times, rip your wings a couple of times, get shot down a bunch of times. At the end of it, I'd love to hear your opinion, because what I think the conclusion you'll come up to is that this is very, very hard to do. But it's not impossible. It's not like, oh, I'm never going to fly a Saber again. I would fly the Saber again, but I'd need it to be a little bit easier to access and have more of an incentive to play. And I think that's the conclusion. The conclusion is that the price of spawning these planes in, comparative to the price of SPA, has to be reworked, because 624 points versus 70 points is too drastic of a difference. Now, I've done my very best to make this video as objective as I possibly could by not making it about me or about how I feel close air support should be. In general, I would love to hear you guys' opinions, but there's something else that I'd love to hear more, and that is for you to give me questions that I'll be able to answer in the upcoming return of the Season 2 of Doomtime. So whether it's a personal question, whether it's a YouTube question, whatever it is, you can put it in the comments below. I'm going to read through them. Make sure to upvote the questions that you'd like to see answered, and we'll see you very, very soon. Till next time, take care and safe flying.